All right, guys, so we're going to do something a little different tonight. We're not going to do any charts because things are kind of slow. We're waiting. So, in this time, and I'm just in the mood to teach, and I just had a little thing happen here. We'll talk about what you're looking at here on the screen because it's relevant to the stories we're going to tell tonight. But I'm going to teach you how to make money from nothing. How to basically take a little bit of money and turn it into 10x, 20x, 30x, and do it just according to a prediction that I made. I said, as the world begins to fold, you're going to start to see the deals on Facebook just coming out left and right. And it's been my experience in the last month that it has just been absolutely outrageous the amount of deals that I've been able to make. Just messing around on Facebook, making a few phone calls, and just sharpening my negotiating skills and just understanding how people spend money and how they do desperate things or how they do stupid things, and just being in the right place at the right time and the guy with the money and the opportunity and the enthusiasm to follow through with a deal. So we're going to talk about how to do that. And some of you guys, I realize that I'm speaking to a very wide audience. Some of you guys, this is right down your alley. Some of these people, some of you guys are just, you don't like to deal with people because you just got to hang up or whatever. I'm telling you, you learn to get over that, and you'd be amazed. Most of these people will literally stuff deals into your pockets if you just learn a few things. And we'll kind of go over the highlights. And this is probably not going to be the last video like this that I do, because I feel that a deal like what you're looking at here on screen, we're going to talk about here in just a second, could put an astounding amount of money in your pocket for nothing more than knowing a few things that I'm going to teach you in this video. All right, so let's go backwards into history just a little bit. So I've been doing, I'm just a natural born seller. I just do this. I'm a natural born teacher, and I'm just a natural born seller. I always like I'm a shopaholic. I like buying crap I don't need. Case in point, you're looking here on the screen. But the thing is, I don't buy anything that I know that I can't sell for more money than I buy it. I buy it, I enjoy it for a while, and I get sick of it, I sell it for a profit. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. So being a foreclosure buyer, one of the largest in the nation, actually, I have sat in front of thousands of people. And so, yeah, there's a certain type of person that goes into foreclosure. And the number one reason they go into foreclosure is just getting, as my grandfather used to say, getting too big for his britches, or getting too big for their britches. Basically, they're overspending, rapid, massive consumerism, and the house of cards falls apart when things, you get a health problem or whatever, and all of a sudden you're ripping down the wallpaper trying to sell everything you possibly can in the house at prices that you would never logically sell. And I predicted to you that this was going to start happening as the cold winter months hit, and by God, here it is already. It's already coming. So let's talk about this thing that you're looking at. Most of you probably have no idea. Is this a pizza oven? Well, it kind of is, but it's not a pizza oven. What it is it's a t-shirt dryer. So before I get too far into this, let me talk a little bit about how you can dial in your skills at doing what I'm about to teach you. There is no need to do exactly what I do, exactly in the segments and markets, or verticals as they're called, that I do. Everybody has a certain skill set. If you're into I've got a lot of businesses, so I've got a lot of understandings of different things. But I can't give you an example right off the top of my head. But if you're into a certain thing and you know the equipment, or you know the culture, or you know prices of something, I can't cite you an example because there's just too many things. Like, let's say, for example, if you're into cars, I'll just use that as a broad thing, and you happen to be an expert on a certain facet of cars, for example. Me personally, I know exotic cars very well, so I know a value when I see one. And I also know the other side of that. I know a market. I know where to take it to immerse myself in a mass pool of buyers. Also, what I'm going to teach you here in tonight's video. So we can scale that up or we can scale it down. Say, for example, I don't know, let me just pick something stupid. Let's say you are into needlepoint, probably the most insane opposite thing from what I'm talking about here. Let's say you're a needlepoint expert. You know that there's machines out there that do needlepoint and blanket making and whatever all else. So you just got that industry totally understood. And all of a sudden you find yourself on Facebook and someone's selling an automated needlepointing machine for like 10 cents on the dollar. What are you going to do about it? You know that machine is worth more than what it's being sold for. And I'm going to explain the mentality and why you're seeing that. But You know deep down that that thing will sell for a lot more money, but you look at it, you acknowledge it, and you move on. That's one of the biggest mistakes most people make. So I was on Facebook last night, and as I always am, and so I watch the charts, and this is what I do with my spare time. And this thing come up, and so let me explain what this is. This is a t-shirt drying machine. So when you do silk screens with making t-shirts and silk screens and stuff like that, you have to put them into a heated drying atmosphere. Sometimes they have these things called flash dryers, which are just like a little hair dryer thing that goes over top. And if you're in the big production stuff, I mean the big time business, you need a conveyor. What it is you put the shirt on this side, and it slowly goes through this three-phase oven, blows, and it comes out, and it dumps it into a box. This is like big time. This thing, as a matter of fact, was owned by a university. And these things don't come cheap. We're talking four figures. This thing is a $9,700 unit, brand new. And it don't look all that bad. It don't look in all that bad a condition, does it? It's got about 450 hours on it. So I'm scrolling around on Facebook last night, and I see this. I'll bring down the actual ad. Here's the actual ad. I saw this. T-shirt drying. Because I used to own one of these. I actually had two of them, as a matter of fact, so I know what they cost because I spent the money. I spent the real money getting it. And I'm looking at this, I'm going, someone's selling a t-shirt machine. Now, back to what I was telling you, times is tough. Who needs a t-shirt machine? Probably not a lot of people. Hold that thought. So then I get to looking and seeing, and let's see if I can find it. This is what they're selling it for. They're selling it for pennies on the dollar. And you'll see that it says sold. I'm the buyer, obviously. But they're listing it at $800. I mean, look at this thing. It's the same exact, this is the unit. I actually bought it. And I saw that, and sometimes you can just get a clue, but like looking right here, you can see it says University of Northern. I won't tell you the actual college, but right there, these pictures were taken when the buyer I bought it from, he reused the pictures. So that's a dead giveaway. This guy couldn't even afford, or just he sucked as a seller. Even taking pictures, and the story unfolds here as we go through this. It's a little bit of detective work you got to do. But the story unfolds here later on. So I saw this. I called her. I talked to this sweet lady. I think her name was Betty. And she says, yeah, my husband and I, and we talked a couple times. And then my girlfriend passed away, and I had to go to Cuba. She comes back, and she goes, hey, you still want this thing? I'm like, I was on the plane. I just got back to America. She called me on cell phone when we landed. I said, yeah, I'm going to be a while. I said, I don't know. So the next thing you know, she changes this ad. I got a personal email along with everybody else that she lowered the price to $350 just because I wasn't able to go in there and pay her $800. And I had already negotiated this down to $600 with her. So I wasn't able to execute because of my girlfriend, and so she just got desperate. So I thought, oh man, I can't say no. I can't say no. So I called her back, and knowing that there was probably no competition, I called her back and I said, "Hey, I'm back here. You still want to sell this?" "Oh yes, I want to sell it." So then she discloses to me that she won this in a divorce from her. She won it in a divorce from her husband. So she don't even give a shit about this. She don't give a damn. She has no emotional attachment to this thing whatsoever. Now let me explain the psychology of this to you. It would be best explained by showing you some other pictures here. So what we've got here is we've got a massively expensive, potentially expensive machine here, already being sold for pennies on the dollar, offered at pennies on the dollar. This is just the asking price. Never take this price. First rule of negotiation, never take this price as God sent. Always ask, can you do better? Why are you selling? Ask these questions. Why are you selling? Can you do better? Have you had a lot, if you're bold enough, have you had a lot of buyers? Don't expect to get the truth out of that. They always tell you, oh yeah, everybody and their brother wants this thing. But ask the questions and then shut up and let them talk. Because sometimes, like my mother, she couldn't stand the sound of silence. She talked she talked too much. That's why I talk so fast. This guy could never get a word in edgewise. And so I've just been trained to do it all my entire life. But anyway, here's the deal. So these photos were photos. She couldn't even take her own photos. She's reusing the photos from last. So it didn't dawn on me as to why. She says, yeah, right now it's sitting on a trailer in our yard right now, covered up with a tarp. Really? Let me show you the trailer. So let me get this Let me show you the trailer. That trailer right there. They had it sitting in the trailer. This thing is massive. I'm not joking. It's almost the size of a small car. So it was sitting in their trailer, their one and only trailer. I mean, look at this trailer. This is not exactly the good side of town type trailer. Would you agree? This is a junk hauler's trailer. So she sends me a picture of this thing, and I thought, I'm doing just a little discovery work, and I'm thinking to myself, these are people that are dumping this because they need the money. They have no emotional attachment to this thing whatsoever. So I said to her, where are you at? Well, she's like 45 miles away from where I'm at. So I've got a trailer, and I'm like, well, I don't really want to use my trailer, which is this tiny little one right here, which would just crush because it's an all aluminum trailer. It's not meant for hauling anything this big. So I said I don't have a way to get it. And they wanted the money so bad they were willing to deliver it. So all said and done, in the bag, they delivered it for $350. So I gave them $50 to drive it 45 miles. That's better than me loading up and carting back and forth. Put it right in the driveway for me, and boom, I got 220 in the garage. I checked it out. Everything works beautifully perfect. So now I'm owning this thing for $350 delivered. So I did a little bit of research, knowing, and I don't need to do the research because again, if you know what these things are worth and you know how you can make money before, always know your exit before you go in the entry. That's first rule of any investment. And so I already know how to get rid of this. There's something I'm going to teach you. It's called market to market. You know it better as arbitrage. Arbitrage is this. Let me explain why this is the greatest opportunity in the history of this type of side hustle probably in your life, because there's going to be so many people that are just going to be selling everything that they got. And again, getting back to the psychology of someone in foreclosure, because this is the type of person we're talking about. When you're in foreclosure, you don't have time to sit down and think logically, okay, what is the best place, and put together a marketing strategy to sell your Hicks 2410 micro dryer. You don't. I just want to sell this thing. So what do? You go to the first order of business. It used to be Craigslist. It still can be. It used to be Craigslist. Now most people go to Facebook Marketplace. And they put it up there and they Hail Mary throw it up, and most of the time they don't understand anything about keywords, they don't understand anything about marketing. They just suck. I mean, and that's nothing against them. It's just that's not your forte. If you don't understand, you just, if you build it they will come. Well, not always. So let me ask you this question. How many people in the Midwest do you think are in the market for this big bad machine at any price? Well, the answer is one, and you're listening to him. Me. Nobody came and took this thing. She got no other phone calls. I mean, I'm not being a bastard, but the truth of the matter is, if I would have offered $100 for this thing, I'd have got it for 100, because when there's nobody else to buy, these people are just like, yeah, they're not in foreclosure, but I could tell after going to their house and giving them the money before delivering, I could tell that they were not doing well. So I wasn't going to hammer them down. I mean, it was a fair enough price. She lowered her price to $300, and that's good enough. She was willing to take it. I was willing to give it. And so that's that. I was the only buyer. Now we're in a small, what I refer to as a small pond in the Midwest. Now, we're in a small town, in a small area, and let me explain another thing to you. This is probably one of the most important things that you should know. Facebook Marketplace, when you go to Facebook Marketplace, you are not going to see, and this is you are not going to see everything that's available in the country. You're just not. Because this thing is set to default to show about 50 miles around you. It's going to show you if you're looking for tools or cars or whatever. You can see right here, within 60 miles. I'm over at Chase's house, so when we're in Des Moines right now. So within 60 miles, you can change that a little bit to 500 miles. But by default, most people don't know that this is here. So if you want to go looking around, you can say, all right, well, let's see what's within 200 miles or 300 miles or whatever. But when most people throw their stuff up, their clocks and guitars and all their garbage. Well, here's another one right here. Toolbox, Craftsman toolboxes. I'm telling you right now, I know toolboxes. That is a whole lot more toolboxes than $225. I have Craftsman. I've had it for 35 years. You're looking at over $1,000 worth of toolboxes. So this is my point. I mean, there's nothing wrong with those boxes. Just looking at them. So people are starting to get rid of a lot of really super expensive. I'm seeing tons and tons and tons of tools. Here's another one. This thing is about $7,000. I know because I've had one. I've had one of these too, and it wouldn't surprise me that this thing is for sale. These Ellis band saws all day long. This one's probably a smaller one. These all day long. These things sell $7,000-8,000 brand new. He's selling it for 3,900. I guarantee you this guy's probably because how many people want an Ellis band saw in a bad economy when manufacturing's going downhill? Not too many. So if I show up and I say, hey, listen, I'll take your Ellis bandsaw, which by the way is sitting on a pallet ready for delivery and looks pretty damn good to me, I might buy this too. But I'm gonna wait because what Facebook does is they give you a dead hint at how bad these people want the money. Listed 2 hours ago. This guy's not ready to negotiate. So I put this in my favorite places and I just wait for this thing. This guy's tune's going to change later on when he can't get a buyer because he's probably liquidating a business. And if there's no takers or whatever. So let me get back here. I jump ship a little bit. So we're in a small little area right now. We're in a 50 foot or 50-mile radius pond. Okay. Now, are there any bigger ponds in the world? Yes. Are there any bigger ponds that you can sell to, that you can go from small market to a large market? Yes. eBay. eBay. eBay services an entire world. They do quite the opposite. They don't list you in a certain area, although if you want to narrow it down, you can. They start by selling you to the world. So when I take this Ellis or this Hicks dryer here and I put it up on eBay, first of all, I'm going to start it at a reasonable price here. I'm going to put a buy it now. I'm going to set, I'll give you the numbers that I'm going to be asking right now on this. I'm going to be asking $3,600 for this thing. My $350 is going to turn into $3,600, slightly over 10x on my money. And so how much time have I got into this? I got $350 in it and maybe about an hour of driving and phone call. Wasn't doing anything anyway. And this thing's going to sit in my driveway for probably about 7 more days. And I'm going to put it on eBay and I'm going to sell it. Now let's talk about the market to market thing here a little bit more. I've got the deal. And this is the pure deal where you buy it. We're going to talk about several different ways to do this. I can buy it, bring it to my house because I'm sure I can sell it, and I put it on eBay and I sell it. That's simple. Everybody can understand it. There are other ways to do this deal, and we'll try to, through this little stream of consciousness here, I'll try to give you other ideas that you'd probably never heard of before. So I'm going to put this thing on eBay, which services a worldwide audience, much bigger pond. Now we start to think, okay, how many people in the world want to buy one of these? I'll give you a real good idea. There are no shortage of kids and people with decent credit who want to start a t-shirt brand or want to start a business for themselves or want to whatever. And this is a tremendously profitable business if you understand how to run one. I wouldn't advise you do that, but I'm telling you, you could take $1.50 worth of t-shirts and ink and turn it into potentially $25 to $30 for a shirt. I know because I've done millions of biker shirts. I owned a company called Baronwear. I still do. I made a friggin' fortune with a machine like this. So the opportunity for somebody else to drop $3,600 on a machine that should cost them twice that much instead of buying new, fabulous deal for them. Definitely a fabulous deal for me. And I could put it on eBay. Now, that's all well and good. That's the pure deal. So I could put it out there. I'll probably get a buyer. $3,600 if somebody's credit qualified, they've got a bank loan or whatever, maybe a little cash in their pocket. They've done some other hustles. They got the cash. They're ready to do the deal. That's just one of many, many, many ways. One of the things that I want to tell you and I want to impress upon you. Most people just don't get it through their head very easily. And some of you guys have been with me for a while, have probably heard me say this many times, but this is a case where it will directly apply. So, all right, so we're going to raise the price of this. I'm just being funny here. We're going to raise the price of this to $25,000. How many of you want to buy it? Line forms here. No takers? Well, what if I change the terms to $1 a month? How many takers do we want now? How many takers do we got now? All of you, hopefully, because there's a rule. It's not how much, it's how much now. If you're running a business, your first thing is you want to come in with low costs. You want to have it all, and you want to have it now, and you want to have it monthly cheap, and you're going to try and pay it off on the backside. So what you don't understand about eBay, if you're not a major eBayer, is eBay has eBay financing. And so what I'm telling you is this: you put this thing on eBay, and people start contacting you, and they're like, "Well, how much do you want for it?" "I want $3,600." "Oh, will you take anything less?" "Oh, listen, I'm not going to take anything less, but hey," and you can point them right on the listing. "Hey, that little button? There's a button off to the side here where you can buy this thing for $28 a month. Just click the eBay finance thing, and eBay will finance you." "Oh, I didn't know that." "Yeah." So all of a sudden now you can pay my price, and you can get it for $28 or $25 or whatever it is eBay's charging through eBay Finance, and you can pay my price, and you're not my problem. I get all my cash, you get your new Hicks dryer, we're both happy. $28 a month or whatever it is. Most people don't realize that that's available to them. It just takes a little bit of time to understand that. Now, to the advanced side of that, let me teach you another thing. I did this a lot with real estate, a lot, and there are people out there that are like this. So some of you guys remember a coin called Populus. You remember me kind of just really being kind of jazzed about Populus. And most of you probably don't realize what Populus is, but what they are is they're a factoring company. So let me go back and explain what factoring is, and let me explain how that ties to what I'm about to propose here in option 3. When I used to buy houses, I would buy these houses. And don't get hung up on the prices, because prices in the Midwest are radically different than they are in the rest of the country. So when I say these prices, don't go, "What?" But back in the day, in the 2000s, you could buy a 2-bedroom bungalow house in Des Moines, Iowa, um, probably in the neighborhood of around about anywhere from $60,000 to $95,000. Now I know that sounds absolutely insane to somebody in California who's probably paying $1 million for the same house, but prices are not necessarily really important. All right, so let's say I have $100,000 house. Let's just round it off. $100,000 house. I go out there. I look for value when I buy foreclosed houses, and I won't even talk to someone unless they've got basically 60% ROI. In other words, I want to see 40% profit margins or 40% equity in these houses going into foreclosure. So I start talking to the folks, and so when I acquire the property, if I get stuck with it, I can move it cheap. And never had it happen to me. Never got stuck with a property in the entire time that I've ever been buying, because I know your exit before you go in the entry. It's rule number one. And so I would buy these houses. Okay, so now I'm the happy homeowner. I'm the happy new investor. I got a house. Sometimes I would sell it back to the people in the house. Most of the time, that worked out beautiful. Sometimes the folks are just like, we couldn't afford it then. We can't afford it now, even on your new terms. Okay, fine. Shake hands. They move out. I got the house. So now I've got a $100,000 house for $60,000. Now, what you have to understand is this concept. And some of you don't have a head for business, and so I want you to understand this is completely ethical. This is the way the world really works. If you go to a used car dealership that there's a term for it, it's called tote the note, where they do the financing. Some of you have probably done this, and you realize and that car you went there and you had dealer lot financing probably sold to you at a premium. Why do you suppose that is? Because they made the financing easy for you and you had to pay for it. So I'll give you an example of that. Let's say we're looking at a Chrysler K car. Who wouldn't want one of those? And let's say that car is $3,000 all day long in the paper, book value, NADA value. And you went to, I don't know, ABC Auto Loan, and they're like, "Yeah, you can put $100 down, drive out of here for $100 a month, and we'll sell this car to you for $4,000." And you're like, "You bastard!" I'm like, "Well, you don't have to buy it from me. You want a car, don't you?" "Yeah." "So what are you gonna do?" "You're gonna do it." Why? Because it only costs you $100 down and $100 a month. So that Chrysler K car could have been priced like a Lamborghini. It does not frickin' matter. It does not frickin' matter. And so, there's a limit to that. You don't want to get into a term called usurious, but this is the way the world works. Nothing unethical about it. I mean, simplicity costs money. How simple do you want it to be? Ease and speed, and you can go out and get your own bank loan if you want. Come in, pay $3,000 for the thing. You're welcome to do that. But if we hold the financing, and by the way, the interest rates on that 100 down and $100 a month. Not generous. They are at the highest amount allowed by law. I can't remember what it is anymore. I used to be a car dealer. I never did dealer financing because I didn't want to chase all the deadbeats all over the country trying to get my cars back. But yeah, it's definitely it stings. It definitely stings. And I know quite a few of you guys that are listening to me have probably bought cars like that, and you know that you basically got raped with a smile badly. All right, so back to this. Now, if I wanted to, uh, let's finish the house example. Houses don't run off, so I will finance a house. Last time I checked, unless they burn down, they don't run off. So I would finance, and this is how I made my millions. Is I was a private banker. I was a private mortgage banker. I owned the property. I financed the property. I basically was a banker. You know, your loan committee, you're listening to them. And so if somebody came to me and they wanted to buy a house on what they call on contract, which is seller financing is another fancy way for looking at it or whatever. I know we got some real estate people that are probably already 10 steps ahead of me in what I'm about to say. But for the rest of you, let's go back to our $100,000 house. We've got a $100,000 house and somebody wants to buy that house that's got no credit. Let's say they've never met a debt they didn't default on. All right, fine. Let's say you got me convinced that maybe you might be able to make this. The first question I'm going to ask is how much money have you got down? That separates the wheat from the chaff real fast. Well, I ain't got any money down. Thanks for playing our game. Been nice talking to you. Goodbye. But I have met no shortage of good people with bad credit that have good cash flow. My last deal that I did with a member of this group who owned property that were just absolutely getting their ass handed to them until I came in there and helped them get it straightened out with how they were doing things. They were standardly renting, and I told them sell it on lease financing, and we completely changed the game. And they ended up with $36,000 down in their pocket. I'll explain that story here at another time. But a $100,000 house. So let's say we've got a marginally beat up credit guy. Maybe he's got a really good job. He's been on the job for maybe 10 years or something like that. And I'm like, so tell me your tale of woe. I went through a divorce. I fell off a roof, broke my hip. Whatever. I mean, it happens. It happens. So I'm like, okay, well, how long ago was that? Whatever. I have never. This might shock a few of you. I have never pulled a credit report in 25, 30 years of real estate. Never. Never. I understand this business well enough to know I have never lost a dollar on any of these people because the thing about it, I say that rather proudly, and it makes some people gasp. You don't pull credit on your people? No, because the first question I'm going to ask is how much money do you have to give me to get yourself into this house? And if some of them come out of the pocket with a lot more money than you think, this guy with a member of the group, he had a $250,000 house. And I said, you should be selling that thing for 10% down. And he says, I'll never get $25,000 down. I said, have you tried? No, but then don't tell me you won't get it. And so he listened to me, and I said, how much are you renting this place for right now? I'll wrap all this up in a little bit. I love to talk real estate. How much are you renting this place for? Well, I'm doing it for, I can't remember the numbers. I'll just give you a number, for $1,200 a month. And I said, what are your costs underneath that? $900. I go, so you're doing all this for what, 300-400 bucks a month? I mean, you're just one disaster away from wiping out a year's profit. I go, how much deposit do you get? Well, I get the same I get the same deposit as I get for rent. That's rank amateur. Never, 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 never do that. Your deposit should never be the same as your first and last month's rent because people think it's just another rent thing and they use it and then they move out, trash your place, and you don't have any money for your deposit. And so I said, what you need to do is you need to sell this on lease option or contract. And he says, well, what's that all about? And I said, what that is you're going to basically be the banker. Well, can I do that? Do I need a license? Your house, isn't it? Buyers and sellers agree and shake hands, and we got a deal. So what you're going to do is you're going to sell this on the contract or on lease option. Lease difference between those is one changes title to them being owner and you retain the financing on it and then you have to sue them to get it back. The other one, lease option, is you own it and you have basically a modified rental contract that month by month by month a little bit of that rent goes towards the house. At the last payment it becomes their house. That's the way to do it because that way you get the tax write-offs, et cetera, et cetera. And so he says, well, how much How much should I be charging? I said, you should be charging 10% minimum. Unless it's a really nice house, then maybe you could do 15% down. He goes, nobody has that kind of money. I go, you don't know because you haven't tried. And so I taught him how to write a thing, and he put it on Facebook Marketplace, as a matter of fact. Put it on Facebook, and he was in Seattle, Washington. I can say that. So he was in Seattle, Washington. There's a lot of good money in Seattle. And so if you don't mind ducking BLM rallies and whatnot, hey, you are where you are. And so he put it on there, and within 2 hours, he had about 7 or 8 phone calls from qualified people. And I said, when these people call, first question you ask them, because you say it right there in the terms. How much are you asking? I'm asking, 10% down. House sells for this. I'm going to modify one thing about that. So I get to roll, and I didn't finish the story. So let's say this is let's go back to our theoretical $100,000 house. $100,000 house. Now, if I'm selling my $100,000 house and I'm holding the financing, am I selling that for $100,000? No, sir. Did that used car lot sell that K car for $3,000? No, sir. He didn't. And so this is what selling financing people do. All of us do this. All the big time all the big time real estate players do this. Mark it up another 10 to 15%. So you're talking now about 115 to 120,000 dollar house. Is anyone going to bitch? Well, that's not what the assessed value is. I don't care. I don't care, because here's the dirty little secret about real estate. If I sell my house at a premium, it raises everybody else's value of their house up too. So you think anyone in that neighborhood's bitching that a house sold for more than it should? This is why BlackRock is fucking up real estate prices all over the place. They're raising real estate prices. This exact same mentality. Not to go down that thread too far, but okay. So basically, I'm selling it for $120,000. So back to a member of our group here. He asked a premium, and I can't remember. I think it was $275,000. It sounds about right. $275,000, and so. Within a matter of a couple of hours, he had a whole bunch of people calling him. I said, now the first question you're going to ask, because what you're wanting, your terms are very, very clear in the thing. So a few people go, hey, would you consider renting this? No. Did it say I'm trying to rent it? No, I'm doing lease option. That's different. How much money have you got to put down? So he said the first call was, tire kickers. You're going to get those anyway. Never hurts to be a dreamer. And then second or third call, he got a call from a woman, and she just immediately came out of pocket and just started telling her life story. My husband works for the railroad. And like, excuse me, he works for what? He works for the railroad. I don't know if you know anything about railroad people, but they get paid really well, and their jobs are really secured. And why this guy doesn't have good credit, I don't know. I don't care. But he works for the real estate, or he works for the railroad. Been working for the railroad for 28 years. That boy is solid. And so this member called me back, and he says, yeah, I got it. And I said, did you ask him the magic question? I could hear he was smiling. He goes, yes, I did. I said, okay, so we were talking, you're going to be asking what, $25,000 down? Yeah. I said, but you're asking $25,000 down, right? Right. I said, you asked the magic question? And he goes, yes, I did. I said, what was the magic answer? And so let me explain the backstory to that. The magic question is, how much money do you have to put down? Now, this woman read the ad. It said $25,000 down. Now, she called up. She wants to be, she's under the assumption that this deal is a hot deal because it's the only deal in town. So let me take this down to street level. When you want to buy a Hicks 2410 micro and there's nobody else that's got one, price can go up. But what happens if the next joker comes and he lists his 2410? Then we got a bidding war. I'm trying to sell my shit for less than he is. But then I come out and I go, hey, wait a minute. I'm going to change the game. I'm going to put seller financing on this thing, and I'm going to sell this thing on payments and make it easier to slide in without any money. This is the credit game. This is the way. This is why America's gotten to where it's at right now. Great for people that are in the business that understand it. People will be all over mine before they will be all over everybody else's. So there could be 1,000 of these damn things listed. There's not, but there could be 1,000 of these damn things listed on eBay. But if you know how to sell them in an attractive way and you've got a good unit, I mean, this thing's very clean. Look at it. It's gorgeous. This is the only game in town, much like that house. That house is the only house in Seattle in that neighborhood. that's got special financing. You could want to live down the block in the other house with the Victorian trim and whatever, but the house doesn't have the attractive financing, and you got busted credit, so that house is off your radar. This is the only game in town, this guy's house, or the only game in currently being played. So one of one line forms here. And so what's the magic question? The magic question is, how much money do you got? She said, I believe, I'm kind of spitwadding here. I believe she said 30 or 35,000, more than 25,000. And he was beaming, and I said, and so what'd you do? He goes, I did just like you told me to. I told her, come over here and have a look at the house. I said, the first thing you got to do is get him out of the house and get him over there and looking at the house. Don't let him cool down. So this gal called, to back up in the story again. She called, and she left a message for him, or they talked for a while, and she said she had 30 or $35,000, and she dumped the whole life story on him. People always tell you their life story. And she says, my husband works for a railroad. He'd been divorced 3 times or whatever. And it's just been one bad thing after. We just won a house. We just won a house. We drove by your house. And they had apparently been by the house and saw the house there. Or they know the area. And she says, oh, we just really want to buy it. And so she wasn't even going to question putting down all the money that they have. And so I said, did you talk about terms? He goes, no. And so this woman was really literally ready to shove $35,000 in this guy's pocket without even discussing terms. I mean, this is the power of what I'm trying to teach you here. I hope you guys are just sitting on the edge of your seat listening to this, because God, this is fun. When you get good at it, oh God, it's fun. And so I'm very excited to be able to teach you guys this. And this is one time we're going to tell this story. We're going to go over this many, many times with many, many deals, because I'm going to be doing quite a few of these here coming up. So maybe we'll have a special room where I can just kind of download this stuff, because I'm telling you right now, you want to buy crypto? I'll show you how to generate the money to get crypto. So let me finish this story and we'll get back to my Hicks machine here. All right, so what this guy did, and I'll just call this guy Ron. It's not his name, but so what Ron did was he got the folks over, and obviously they did a lease option contract. And we don't need to get into the details of that, but effectively within 1 hour of them showing up, they brought cash. They had the cash, man. They weren't going to let this house slide by and let somebody else come in and take their house, because they knew they're one of one. They came over, brought the money, gave it to Ron in cash, because that's how those sorts of people deal, and bada boom, bada bang, they got themselves a house. Now, let me tell you the other part of that deal. So I said, so what are you going to sell the house for? I want to sell it for $250,000. I said, well, you should be asking premium. We'll say $275,000. I'm not going to give you the exact numbers, but it was more than 275 to be honest. And so he got that price, because they're not going to ask, because it's not how much, it's how much now. Could have easily been $500,000. Doesn't matter. So it's not up for debate. So how much per month can you handle? This is the magic question number 2 is this: how much can you handle per month? Now, again, in the listing, the price was very clear: $25,000, an X number of dollars per month gets you in the house. If you come in with $25,000, I like it or whatever, we got the deal right there. It's right there on Facebook. They came in. He asked them magic question number 2: how much can you handle per month? And the woman told him a price much, much higher than his listed price. And so he didn't even have to negotiate with this woman. This woman was so ready to hand over a premium. I'm going to say roughly 50% more than what he probably could have gotten, according to what he was asking for. It was insane. I mean, it even impressed me, and I've seen a lot. And he's just absolutely beaming, going, I've never seen anything like this. And I go, I warned you it was coming. And see, these are the consumers on the other side, because they're trying to find a house, because housing, and that's a whole other discussion. So they got to get their ass into a house, and they've got it as long as they can continue to pay. And I believe that they will, because he works for the railroad. Railroad's going to start to be a very important thing as diesel goes down and whatnot. We won't go down that rabbit hole, but yeah, it's a damn solid job. He's a mechanical engineer for a major railroad. So yeah, that's money, baby. So now here's the part that I'm telling you, the real estate thing. So I used to do that, but I would do it as a contract. So I would literally create the mortgage, if you will. Now I can do one of two things. And this is where it comes full circle to my Hicks machine here. I can do one of two things. And by the way, I haven't forgotten about Populous. I'll bring that back into the story here in just a second. I can do one of two things. I can go ahead. Let me give a hypothetical. Let's say I want to sell my Hicks machine for $3,500, cash money. And let's say if I finance the thing, I'm going to sell it for 5,000, just to be funny. I'm going to sell it for five. Still a good deal because these things sell for almost $9,000 brand new. So keep that in the back of your mind when I finish the real estate story, and we'll come back to my $5,000 Hicks machine. So if you got a real estate contract now you've got what they call paper or a note. You've got receivables. All right. So now every single month, what happened? Ron got a big old wad of cash put in his hand. He's happy. He's smiling. He got 30-some thousand dollars in his hand up front. That's his insurance. Beats the hell out of getting $1,200 as a damage deposit, don't it? I mean, let me ask you a common sense question. How many people do you think are stupid enough to put down $30,000 and then fuck your house up and then disappear? I dare you to do it. I dare you to do it. Because if you do, you know you're not getting your 30,000 back because it's not a deposit. It's an option contract. That's a completely different discussion. Meaning if you don't exercise that option, you lose it. And nobody that I've ever met in 30 some years of doing this has ever been stupid enough to put those kind of dollars at risk. So they take damn good care of that contract. It is the first thing that gets paid, if anything. And so there's that. Now, so Ron's got his cash flow going, and here's the other part of this. Now, what I would do is I had hundreds of these things, thousands actually, of these houses that I had generated this. Now, there are people who buy cash flow contracts, and this is going to come full circle to the Hicks. In this day and age that we're going on right now, you've heard me mention this, so now I'm going to make it real for you. There are companies out there that buy cash flow contracts at a discount, mind you. I used to fix forklifts back when I was in my 20s. I worked for a company. I fixed Yale and Heister forklifts. I met the very first wealthy billionaire, or not billionaire, but multimillionaire I met, who's still a dear friend of mine to this very day. His name was Rich. I know a lot of guys named Rich, and his name was Rich, rightly so, because him and his dad are rich. And what they did is they buy contracts. They finance used car dealers around the central Iowa and central Chicago area, and they make just crap tons of money in B note, D note, BCD note, high risk lending, and they discount the contracts. And so to finish out the real estate thing here, you got this note with a face value of, let's just say a face value of $300,000 with cash flow over the years with interest has got maybe potentially, I'm just going to make a number up, $500,000 cash flow value. Okay. And you decide, I don't want the cash flow anymore. So you go about two, three years down the line. I don't want the cash flow anymore. I'd rather just get the money. Somebody can come along and say, I will buy the remainder of those cash flow dollars from you for a discount of the face value. So the face value on the house, face value on the note or whatever, maybe they'll come in, they'll offer you 70% or 80%. I usually negotiate about 80% of face value. So you're like, well, wait a minute, I'm losing money on that deal. Let's go back to the original premise. What did we do? We sold a house at a premium price, and then we financed it. And we took a huge down payment, did we not? That comes off the overall price of the house. And now we've got cash flow that we've been making interest on. So by the time we go about 3, 4, 5 years down the line and somebody wants to buy that house, cash flow, they're paying 80% on what's left. You can take those dollars and go do something else with. You're making very good money. What I would do is I would do a much more micro version of that, where literally I would just create that financing and flip that note at what's called a dual closing, because it was the only easy money I could get. This is a little bit advanced here, but I'll take it down to Hicks level here in just a second. What I would literally do is I would have a contract to buy a house At the same time, I was already had a list of buyers to buy a house, and I would match them up, and I would not close the house to take possession of it until I had a buyer that wanted to look at it, because I would negotiate, and this is what's going to roll into concept number two here. I would never take possession of a thing or a house until I had a buyer. Remember this, because we're going to talk about this later in this video. And what I would do is do what's called a dual closing. I would negotiate my price in terms of the Hicks, $350. I wouldn't take possession of the Hicks or the house or the whatever we're talking about until I had a buyer. In case of the Hicks, for example, maybe I would market the Hicks. I would negotiate something with somebody saying, hey, listen, I'm going to need about 3-4 days to execute this deal here. Here's a couple bucks, an option to hold on to the Hicks and show you I'm a legit buyer. Here's a couple bucks to hang on to this house as an option. Show I'm a legit buyer. I just can't close because I got some tax issues I got to deal with, whatever. Oh, by the way, do you mind if I take a couple of pictures while I'm here? Sure, no problem. I would take those pictures and I would go out on the internet and I would go looking for buyers going, you know, if you got 10% down, don't care what your credit's like, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden my phone would just start ringing and I would just start writing down numbers. And these folks, I would say, okay, I got one over at 123 Main Street. And I'd send those folks to drive by and look in the windows of these empty houses and stuff like that. Yeah, I want it. And I would have those folks the afternoon prior to closing come in and do a preemptive contract where they would put their money down with me. So in other words, let's take it from Ron's deal. They would come in and they would put down their $30,000. And my contract was crafted in just such a way that verbalized that if I was not able to execute this, so they couldn't sue me for non-performance, I wrote the contract basically as saying, you know, that this is pending upon me closing the deal to get the house. It's just a simple little variation in the understanding. Never had a problem with that because there's always people, when people want to sell, they want to sell. And if you're thinking clearly on what I just did here, I just brought the money to finance the damn deal to the table before the deal was ever even there. My $30,000 buyer came to Ron's $30,000 buyer came to the table with their $30,000 and put it down, and then he took some of that $30,000 and went and executed his lesser deal on the other end of this, and ended up making money out of thin air. Cash flow out of thin air. So let's take it down to the Hicks level now. So now I've got a $3,500 machine I would sell for cash. Let's say, for example, I've got somebody that wants to buy it from me. You're going to love this. You're really going to love this. So I got somebody who wants to buy this from me. And so I'm going to sell it for $5,000 on seller financing. Are y'all with me? Get the paper out if you want. I want to make absolutely sure that you understand what I'm about to teach you, because your mind's about to hold on to the top of your head, because I'm going to blow some minds here in about 2 seconds. So I put this on Craigslist, for example, or I put this on Facebook, and I say, all right, I'm going to sell it for $5,000 with 10% down. What is 10% of $5,000? It's $500. What did I pay for this machine? I paid $350. What did I just make? I just made $125 out of thin air for nothing more than a listing on Facebook. Didn't do a thing. Didn't do a thing in this scenario. In what you're looking at here, I actually spent my own money, but it could be executed like this. I just made $125 out of thin air, just like that. You can scale this concept up to buildings. You can scale it down to, you know, needles, big as small as you want. It can be buildings. It can be micro or macro as you want to be. That essence of that deal has carried me through 30 years of making millions and millions of dollars. But wait, there's more. So if they put down $500 on financing, now I'm not saying it has to be 10%. Maybe it should be 20%. Well, okay, I'm selling it for $5,000. What's the magic question number one, kids? How much have you got? Because I'm not asking 500. I'm asking what you got. And so let's say, for example, somebody comes in and goes, oh, well, you know, I got half of it. Do you now? Do you now? Then put it in my hot little hand. So you got yourself a deal. Because if you put $2,500 in my pocket right up front on something I paid $350 for, and you stiff me and you never pay me, I made money. Did I not? But I'm not going to sell this to any joker. I'm going to want to know where he's at. I'm going to want some insurances and stuff like that. I don't want to be fast and loose about it. I don't want to be stupid with my money and my investments. But here's the thing. If I know where this is going, It's just got a serial number on it too, by the way. If I know where this thing is going, where it is, I can create a contract with this guy. Just a basically a little lease. I can lease it to him. I can lease it to him. I don't even have to sell it to him. To be honest, I could say, listen, I'll lease this to you. While your business is getting started, just pay me XXX number of dollars every single month. There's so many ways to chop up this deal. Maybe I don't want to to sell it at all. Maybe I want to find somebody who wants one of these things, and we can put this machine in the corner and he can use it, be responsible for the maintenance and stuff like that, and just pay me money to own it. And he never buys the thing. And at the end of the day, I could take it when he's done with it, if he's ever done with it, and I can say, hey, listen, you've had this thing for, 6, 7, 8 months, a year, 2 years, whatever. You want to just buy it? I'll put it on easy terms for you, and then just turn around and sell it, at a premium on top of that. Lower the price for, let's say he's paying you, $300 a month. You say, okay, well, for $250 a month, you could be working your way towards ownership. And then you just basically set the price. This is exciting stuff, guys. I just get off on doing this. I love doing this because once you know how to structure a deal, everything becomes a deal. Everything becomes a deal. And once you understand these simple things, your life will change, I assure you. And so, having money for crypto, ain't no thing. Ain't no thing. You just got to get off your dead ass and just start hunting the deals down. Know value, know the basic bones of how to structure a deal in finance, and everything becomes a deal. Absolutely everything. So to go back, to go back on the house thing here, I know I'm hitting you with a lot of concepts. So let's go through the house thing one more time. So we got $30,000 down on a premium based house, and he's got cash flow every single month. So that's a cool deal. And he can sell the note if he wants. Now, what is Rich and the crypto got anything to do with this? What Rich would do is he would buy these contracts at discounted notes. Well, that's what Populus does, guys. I was trying to explain to you, without telling one of these long-winded stories, what Populus does. It's factoring. The word for this is factoring. If you've got a cash flow, receivable cash flow on something, you have no idea how many trillions of dollars are out there in unpaid bills and receivables and people in need of money. Some of you may understand, most when you order stock for your store, you got 120 days to pay for it, because the idea is basically, let's say, for example, you sell owls. I'm just going to be stupid. Let's say you have a store called the Owl Store, and you have figurines and macrame stuff and just everything to do with owls. Any subject matter involving owls, and all the stock and stuff, rugs and lamps and whatever, everything just owl based or whatever. And so all your stock comes from people who supply you on credit. So the idea is you're going to bring all your stock in, get your store looking all pretty, throw your doors open, the consumers will come in, buy all your stuff, and you'll have enough money to pay off the bills within 120 days. Now, times are tough, and let's say, for example, you're doing okay, you're paying like you're supposed to, but the person who puts you on those terms, the owl wholesaler, as it were, is not doing so well because his margins are not as good as your margins. And so he's like, oh, shit, we got cash flow problems here. What are we going to do? Well, we got the Owl Store owes us, I don't know, $10,000 receivables. He hasn't paid us yet, but we need the money now. Now. You guys have ever heard of J.G. Wentworth? Need money, cash now? You remember those unbelievable commercials that were always playing like every 5 seconds in the middle of the day? That's what that is. Those guys are buying structured settlements. They buy lotteries and stuff like that, but they're just another form of receivables. And so what they do is they come in, they say, okay, face value on the Owl Store contract, it's $10,000. You need $10,000, and so the Owl Store wholesaler, or the Owl Parts wholesaler, has a $10,000 contract. They're going to offer them, cents on the dollar, just to give those guys cash so they can pay their employees and stay in business and live to fight another day. And this stuff goes on everywhere, in every nook and cranny, in every small town and big city in America, and indeed in the world. Trillions of dollars. This goes on all over the place, right under your nose, right across the street from you. You probably don't even know it. And what Populus does, and this is why, not to spin down the crypto web, but Populus is going in the toilet right now, guys, but I'm here to tell you, I have absolute faith that when things start to get to the point where that's a needed service, That's going to be a coin you're going to want to own because this is exactly what Populus does. And as far as I know, it's the only coin that does it. As far as I've been doing my research on it anyway. So it's one of one. All right, so I've hit you with the whole thing. This is the beauty of tape. You can go back and listen to the story again here. This is why I record this stuff and don't do it as a live stream. So we've got this Hicks machine here. So what is my plan with this? To go back one more time and explain this, I could have done a dual close, and I could have said, hey, listen, Betty, I'm just getting back from Cuba here. I'll take it. And what I would do is I would go over. Well, let's just walk you through this step by step. I would go over there. I would look at it, show buyer's intent. Hey, I like what I'm looking at here. Hey, listen, Betty, I've got some stuff going on here. You don't need to tell them a whole sob story. Just say, listen, I'm not ready to take possession of this. Can I show you that I'm interested here and just leave a couple bucks with you? The less the better, because this is called leverage. And say, listen, can I give you $10 or whatever to hang on to it, or $100 to hang on it, or whatever. And I'll close with you. Closing means I'll execute the deal, and we'll get you the rest of the money and whatever. We'll finish our deal here. Can you give me a week or so? Because I got some other stuff I need to do, or I'm waiting for some money to come in or something like that. But I'm a buyer. As bad as they want to get rid of it, if I'm the only person that's offering them anything, what are they going to say? No, I don't like it. Well, you can not like it, but if I'm the only one buying, you're going to have to learn to love it. And so let's say for example, maybe you give in this particular case, I would go to Betty and say, hey, listen, can I give you $25 to hang on this just to show, if I don't show up, if I never show up and buy this thing, then $25 is yours. Of course I will. And so give her $25. That's enough to kind of, so now you have a binding contract. You now have a binding contract. In the UCC, Uniform Commercial Code recognizes this as a binding contract. There's a buyer, a seller, and there is an exchange of cash. Wouldn't hurt to get yourself a receipt with handwritten terms or whatever signed by both parties, and you have a binding contract. It should have an execution date on it, and good enough. Okay, so now snap a couple pictures of this thing. Again, this thing was sitting in a trailer, so probably not the most optimum, but I could take her pictures that she used on Facebook. I can take them right here. Whoops, sorry, I'm using a different thing here. I can take the pictures that she used on Facebook, and I can go, and I can go back and if I can find that. Hold on just a second here. Sorry, I can't find it. I lost my page. There we go. I can take these pictures. They'll work just fine. And I can go to a larger market. And I can go to eBay, and I can almost literally take her description right here and put it on eBay. Add a little bit more to it or whatever, and put it on a 7-day sale. If I agree to with Betty that I'll be back in 10 days or whatever, I'll put it on a 7-day sale on eBay and rock and roll and let it go. Now, in a good case scenario, a buyer will come in and we would want to say in the eBay listing that you have to once the sale closes, you got to be able to give me a deposit of. Let's talk about this concept because this is kind of cute too. eBay has another thing that they do that when you win an auction, you can request that a person gives you a deposit within 24 hours. Well, what kind of deposit do you suppose I'm going to want to ask for from my eBay big money buyer? Well, I'm going to want to ask for at least $350, don't you think? Because what's going to happen is if my eBay buyer defaults, then I'll just go down the list and get the next person because you got a list of bidders. But let's say that first guy bids, and let's say maybe he lives on, let's say I'm in Ohio and he's in Pennsylvania and he can't get in until the following week, and I'm sitting here waiting for his cash. That's no good because that means I'm going to have to come up with my own money to make Betty happier. I'm going to lose my $25. So what eBay has is eBay will allow you to ask for a deposit. So what you would do is you say, all right, well, you do your listing and you say, I want a $350 deposit theoretically on my $3,500, $3,600, or $5,000 or whatever it is you're selling this Hicks for thing. And of course, obviously, when they're calling in, you want to talk to them about financing. If there's like, yeah, I'd like to get it or whatever, we've already covered that. So when the auction ends, you don't even have to be awake for this. They're already told by eBay, hey, you want it? Time to make a deposit. Let's have the money. And so eBay will be the doorkeeper for that. And then you'll wake up in the morning and cha-ching, baby, you got $350 sitting in your PayPal account. And you take that and you just go, you deposit it in your bank account. You call up Betty, you say, Betty, I'm ready to take delivery on that. And if you're really good, you don't even take delivery of it. I've done this so many times, it's not even funny either. I mean, I don't want this goddamn thing taking up my driveway. I got a 2-car garage and 6 fucking cars. I don't have room for all this stuff. And I did take delivery of it, as you can see here. But what am I going to do with us? Just leave it over to Betty's house. Just tell her, listen, I'm trying to get a mini storage place hooked up for this. I'm going to send someone over to pick it up. So let Betty be the warehouse for this damn thing. You know what I'm saying? So let's say you got a buyer. Let's call him Mike. And let's say so Mike's the guy. Let's say he won this thing for, I don't know. Let's just pick a number, $6,000 on eBay in the bidding, and he fires you off a $350 deposit or a 10% deposit, as it were. Sometimes you can ask for 10%, which would be $600. And so Mike calls you up the following day, says, "Hey, I'm your winner on this." Okay, fine. And you work out your deal. Yeah. Where's the machine at? Well, I don't have it at my house. It's over at this other gal's house. You'll have to pick it up over there. And so you just give them the address, and basically Mike says, "Okay, I'll be in town on Tuesday." You call up Betty and you say, "Hey, Betty, I got a guy that's going to come and take that thing on Tuesday." And it wouldn't hurt that you show up to exchange money and stuff like that, because basically what's going to happen is Mike's going to hand some money to you, and Mike's going to go into Betty's trailer, and he's going to just basically load it right off of Betty's trailer, right onto his trailer, and you walk away with the remainder of your $6,000. Done and done. And what do? You go buy gold and silver and crypto. That's what you do. So, all right. So hopefully I taught you something a little bit here. We're going to go over this several times because it's exciting, guys. It's fun. I want you to I warned you I was going to show you how I make money from nothing, and I want to demonstrate this. I like to lead by example. So you're looking at this. So I have not got this listed yet, but I already know. I know value. I already know what this thing is going to sell for, and I have a lot of weapons in my quiver on how to unload this. I mean, if I was really good going into spring, I have every bit of faith I could probably sell this for full retail value, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to, I want to get a quick sale. I'm going to buy some silver with it. Is what I'm going to do. So, going to be a pretty when you look at my dollar cost average on my silver with a $350 investment, I'm going to get a real good buy price on silver for that. So, that's my plan. So I'll be following up on this here as this progresses.